Hello, everyone. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J More Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, just drop questions into the comment box and I will check them from time to time. You'll see me turn my head. Um, Today's guest, Henry Lovejoy, is president of Freshé Meals. Freshé Meals are small, ready to eat, globally inspired, high protein meals on the go. They are made with simple ingredients and sustainable sourced ingredients. This is the tip of Henry's story, who, along with his wife, who support marine conservation and providing the most sustainable, highest quality, healthiest, all natural, most delicious food. Good afternoon, Henry. What's on your plate today?
Hey, Dara. Nice to see you, and thanks for having me. What's on my plate today? Well, it's almost always Freshé meals.
That's great. So let's talk about Freshé. But before Freshé, there was EcoFish, and you're very much involved. Your wife is very much involved in the business. So what is EcoFish?
Yeah, so the story goes back actually before 1999. We started EcoFish in 1999, but prior to that, for 8 years, we were exporting live lobster from Atlantic US and Canada throughout Europe and Asia. And Lisa, my wife, and I had the opportunity to travel throughout Europe and Asia as we were exporting the lobster, going on to seafood exchanges where primarily most of the seafood that ends up in restaurants in Europe and Asia goes through these exchanges in the middle of the night. And really witnessed what was pretty disturbing to us. It was clear that man was removing fish from the ocean faster than they could reproduce. The biggest epiphany for us is when we were in the Tsukiji market in Tokyo, and we were seeing the tuna exchange, which is a daily exchange of tuna that was caught from around the world in a cement floor that's bigger than a football field, covered with tuna. Not only did that look like it was a lot of tuna to be removing on a daily basis, just in that part of the world, but there were tuna the size of footballs that weren't big enough to reproduce yet. Long story short, I decided to take a break from the seafood industry, took a year off, did a Harvard Business School program for global leadership, and wrote the business plan in 1999 for EcoFish. Basically, our mission has been to provide consumers with a certified sustainable seafood option that's delicious, high quality, easy to eat or easy to prepare. We have two brands, Henry and Lisa's Natural Seafood. That brand has been in the market for over 16 years, frozen and canned seafood in about 4,000 stores around the country. And 3 years ago, we launched our Freshé brand, which is really fun and exciting. Took what we learned from the industry, watched the food market in general in the United States and the trends, good trends, seeing consumers wanting to eat more healthy. But the fact is the average American eats more than half of their meals away from home and alone. And so, a lot of people have grown up with fast food, which we know is convenient, but it's really bad for you. We've basically incorporated the Mediterranean diet into an easy open tin, celebrity chef design meals with certified sustainable tuna and salmon, with global recipes from around the world. So you have your fish in the tin, but you also have olive oil, spices, beans, vegetables. They're super delicious. They're all cooked once together in the tin in our partner's cannery in northern Portugal, where the seafood canning industry is the oldest in the world. They literally invented it 170 years ago. So it's been a really fun journey. We were sourcing sardines in Portugal 5 years ago and came across this technology. They were just starting to work on adding vegetables with fish, and just thought it was a great idea and wanted to bring it to the United States.
It is a gourmet meal with sustainable tuna, and also salmon. And the cans are the preservative. Nothing, don't need to refrigerate it. You don't need to cook it. The only time you have to refrigerate it is if you open it and just don't happen to finish it, then you refrigerate it. But I think a good shelf life up to 4 years. Globally inspired. And I'm just going to read off a couple from here. This is the Aztec's ensalada. Wild tuna, red beans, succulent corn, sweet red peppers, chopped onion. And your tagline is small meals, big protein. When I saw you at the fancy food show, I came over. I don't remember which one I tasted, but I was gobsmacked at the flavor and the intensity and everything that's packed in there. They're all 4.25 ounces. So that's the Aztec ensalada, the Thai sriracha, wild tuna, sweet and sour beans, crunchy peanuts, leafy greens, hot Asian spice. Everybody, it's a meal in a can. That's it. If you're hiking or running errands and you don't have time to stop, it's so convenient. Or at home, just make a salad and have this. It's all done for you. It's all sustainable. It's gluten-free, no GMOs. I'm trying to think of everything. BPA-free liners, and you're taking care of the ocean. I'm trying to see, let me find my notes. Here we go. Okay. The fish is caught sustainably. And let's explain what that is. Let's explain what drift nets and gill nets are.
Yeah, that's a great one. And that's what's core to our mission, is that all the seafood we sell throughout EcoFish, Henry Leases, and Freshé is certified sustainable either to the Marine Stewardship Council that was founded by the World Wildlife Fund. They certify wild fisheries, which is just under half of all the fish consumed in the world now. And then there's the Aquaculture Stewardship Council, which certifies farm fish, which is now more than half of the seafood that's consumed in the world. We also work with a Friend of the Sea certification that is based in Europe. So the tuna that we use in the Freshé meals is caught in the Canary Islands, which is a Spanish colony off of the African coast. It's all caught by hand line, hook and line, one fish at a time. The benefit of that, what makes it sustainable, is you're not catching other fish while you're targeting the tuna. As you mentioned, drift nets, gill nets, bottom trawling, you're pulling up a lot of other species. Very often it's dead when it's brought up and it's returned to the ocean dead. When we started well over 20 years ago, 2/3 of the global catch was bycatch. A lot of countries are doing a much better job. Consumers are on board now. They're seeking out more sustainable options. So with our tuna fishery, the only thing they catch is tuna, one at a time. And certainly part of the certification is that the fishery has a management plan in place. The fishery is abundant, and as I mentioned, bycatch is minimal. On the salmon side, it is farm salmon from Norway that's certified sustainable by the Aquaculture Stewardship Council. And there's similar to wild fisheries, there are good farms and bad farms out there as far as environmental impact is concerned. When it comes to farming salmon, the concerns are that the salmon escape. Either these are pens that are floating out in the ocean. Either a ship hits the pen or a big storm comes through. The farm fish are allowed to intermingle with wild fish. That's not always a good thing. There are issues with pollutants underneath these pens if they're packing in densities too much. Very similar to what you'd see with, let's say, hog farming on land. You put too many hogs in a pen together, well, then you have to start feeding them antibiotics because they'll get sick, similar to packing too many humans in a small space. So the ASC certified farms have lower densities, so they don't have to use antibiotics all the time. The pens are built in a way that they shouldn't be ruptured. So there's all of these aspects when it comes to certification. We're thrilled that the MSC, ASC, and Friend of the Sea exists because they're very credible. They basically do the work for us. We're certified for chain of custody with all three of those. So it's there are a lot of fisheries that are certified now, and anybody out there who cares, if you're buying grass-fed beef or free-range poultry, you should be buying certified sustainable seafood too. There are a lot of brands out there that use the word sustainable very loosely. You need to look closer. Make sure that they're certified by a credible third-party certifier. Otherwise, you can't believe what they're saying.
Right. Well, I mean, I can see the ASC on the can, and they're all stamped. That's for the salmon and Provence Niçoise and Moroccan tangine.
That's my personal favorite. There's some wonderful North African flavors in there, like fennel, and there's delicious olive oil. And
right. It's chickpeas, onions, roasted zucchini, quinoa, olives, lemon, carrots, fennel. I mean, the flavors are right there. And the other ingredients come from the local farms in Portugal or wherever, or near the Canary Islands, wherever it's being produced, it comes from Spain and Portugal.
It does. And I should note that, there's some spices that don't grow in that part of the world. So there's some small exceptions where we needed to go outside of the Iberian Peninsula. The salmon from Norway is an example. It's still from Europe, but they don't farm salmon in Portugal. So that was the closest source. And that's basically our guidelines, to stay as local as reasonably possible and everything being 100% certified sustainable. And, have you ever heard of these ingredients in a can before? I grew up on a farm every summer when I was a kid, and we had a huge vegetable garden, and my mom canned everything we had, and we ate it all winter long. And I learned that you can take really high ingredients and can it for future consumption, and it would be just fabulous coming out of the can. And that's what we're trying to emulate here. As you mentioned, it's a 4-year shelf life, which is incredible. You can stick it in your back pocket and eat it anywhere. And every label is completely clean. Everything that you see on that ingredients list is real food. There's no chemicals or things you can't pronounce, because the tin is the preservative. We've grown up in a world recently where people think you need chemicals to preserve food. Well, you don't. You don't need to freeze it to preserve it. Imagine you get 4 years of shelf life out of just using a can itself. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I have a couple questions in here. Let's see. Some of the larger tuna brands have introduced pouches over the past few years. Any chance you'll introduce a line with resealable pouches?
That's an excellent question. And, when they started coming out, we looked at them really closely. And the short answer is no. And the reason why, and a lot of consumers don't know this, those pouches are not recyclable. Pouches have become very popular because of, is your listener is asking, they're being able to reseal them. It's not a huge portion, we call it a small meal. It's 4 1/4 ounces, but I will tell you, it's incredibly filling. It's very nutrient dense. We love the tins. There's no packaging in the world that is more recyclable than aluminum. Our tins are made from a minimum 90% recycled content. So that aluminum has already been recycled, and then it goes into making our tins. And they're 100% recyclable. And, there's like glass and other plastics, sadly, are not, you might put them to the curb to be recycled, but sadly, we know a lot of those actually aren't. But aluminum is the most recycled packaging there is. So we love that fact, and that's why we love the aluminum tins, and why we haven't gone to the pouches.
Right. How did you and Lisa meet? Because she is definitely your partner in this. Was she into conservation as you were, or did this just evolve between the both of you? I'm curious as to, being married and working together, there has to be a common interest.
Yeah, well, I'm incredibly blessed, because you're right. She's not just my partner in life, but she's my partner in business. We're co-founders of EcoFish, and Henry and Lisa's and Freshé. The way we met has interestingly nothing to do with what we're doing. She was working at the Bank of Boston, and I was an intern at the Bank of Boston, which doesn't even exist anymore. But we just happened to be on the same floor together, and met there when we were in our early 20s. I think the thing that we share is the love of the outdoors, and love for the environment, and wanting to have as small a footprint on the environment as we can. I grew up on that farm with lots of woods in New Hampshire around it, and gained a deep respect and love for the outdoors that way. Lisa grew up in Seattle, and then the mountains of Colorado. But, my big inspiration was Jacques Cousteau when I was a kid. Like, I lived for Sunday night and for Jacques Cousteau. I made sure I was done with dinner in front of the TV. And he really gave me an appreciation for the other 71% of the planet of water, and what was under the surface. And at the time, you couldn't be certified to scuba dive until you're 18 years old. So literally a couple days after my 18th birthday, I started getting certified for scuba diving, so I could go underneath and see what Jacques Cousteau was showing me as a child on TV.
Before I forget, just to remind people, all the connections that you need to reach out to Henry are popped up in the comments section. But the social is at Freshé Meals, and that's FRESHE Meals, and it's freshemeals.com. And everything you want to know about this is available. Where to purchase? You can get Freshé at Amazon. What other large is in Whole Foods as yet?
Yeah, we're in Whole Foods, Walmart.com, the Fresh Market, Harris Teeter, Safeway, Northern California, Natural Grocers. It's a long list. We're over 2,500 now. The best thing to do is to go on to freshemeals.com and go to the store locator. All you do is put in your zip code, and very good chance you'll find a store nearby. We're always in the canned fish aisle. So go where you buy your canned tuna. We should be right next to it. And the prices are really good on Amazon and Walmart too. So it's pretty available to just about anybody.
There's a question which deals with expenses. It says seafood tends to be an expensive food. Do you see prices adjusting downward anytime soon?
Wouldn't that be wonderful? This era of inflation, I'm really proud to say that we have not increased our prices throughout COVID and the recent inflation. One of the very interesting points to that is that we've been saved because the dollar's gotten stronger against the euro. So we purchased Freshé in euros, and our production costs have gone up, but the strength of the dollar has helped us so that we haven't had to do a price increase. You can buy Freshé for $3.99 per tin delivered to your door, which we think is really affordable. We've kind of grown up in a world where we're used to $1.79 can of tuna. But it's kind of like comparing a hamburger to a filet mignon. For $3.99, you think about what your other options are in life, whether you're going through a fast food drive-through or grabbing something at a convenience store. You think about the high protein and the quality of the ingredients and the fact it's an entire meal. We really think it's a really good value, and maybe to our downfall, and in some cases because our name is right on the product, we have never ever compromised on quality, and we refuse to. And that does tend to make our products a little bit more expensive than the big multinational companies that are putting stuff out, but you definitely can see it in the quality. And we hope that, at a $3.99 price point, it's within reach of most people, and they're eating a super healthy meal at the same time.
Right. Well, if you think about, you can't even get a Big Mac for under $4 anymore. So,
right.
Yoo-hoo. And, one of the comments, somebody, I think it was Henry and Lisa Seafood, which is the same tuna, and she talked about how the tuna, how it blew her mind. And I lost an earbud, and I'm hoping, can you still hear me?
I can hear you, and while you're looking for it, I'll tell you about the Henry and Lisa's tuna. It's a fun story. We like to can everything where it's caught. So that tuna is caught in the Pacific Northwest. Small family troll boats are usually about 40 feet long. One tuna at a time, hook and line, and it's canned in Bellingham, Washington. It's albacore tuna, and it is absolutely delicious. It's not cheap, and I apologize for that. But again, we just don't cut corners. We're supporting small family fishermen. We're using a cannery in Bellingham, Washington. It costs us more than $2 per tin just to hand pack it. That's more than most, lousy cans of tuna you can buy costs right now. But the cool thing about it is not only is it a sashimi grade tenderloin of tuna, so you have one or two big pieces of tuna in there, it goes into the tin raw and it's cooked in the can once. Bumblebee, Starkiss, chicken of the sea, that's all cooked and usually treated with chemicals before it's put in the tin, tripolyphosphate. So a lot of the reason why we're eating canned tuna, most people don't know, is lost before you eat it. It's the omega-3 rich oils. That's why our canned tuna has a much higher omega-3 rich content. It's cooked once in the can, and when you open it, you see liquid in the can. We've all been taught to drain our tuna. Well, that's because they put water or some kind of vegetable oil in with it. Nothing goes in the can with us except for tuna, and we have a salt-free and one with a little bit of salt. That's it. And so when it cooks in the can, that omega-3 rich oil cooks out of the tuna and is in the can with the tuna. So we instruct consumers, mix that oil back into the tuna. Do not drain it, because there's a huge health benefit to it. Plus, it's delicious. I've always liked to mix my tuna for a sandwich with mayonnaise, and I still do, but I probably use 20% the mayonnaise I would use with a conventional brand because of that.
It's all in the taste, everyone. It's one of the ways that I assume we as consumers can give back.
Right.
What can we do as consumers to help the ocean? Thoughts?
That's so right. We need to vote with our wallets. The United States, we pay less for our food than any other country in the world if you look at it as a percentage of your income. And now with inflation, we're all sadly finding out that we're probably spending a higher percent than we were a few years ago. But you gotta vote with your wallet. If you want the oceans to be abundant for future generations, you want that small micro cannery to still be there in the future. It's really important to support those small brands that are helping, because it really feels like the world's being taken over by huge multinational corporations, and they're doing everything they can to push us little guys out of the market. So vote with your wallet and help save the oceans and small family businesses.
Thank you. Now, as we draw to the end, I have certain questions that I ask. I can't remember if I sent it in details to you, but I sort of wrap up the show. It's just different things. What was your best bite this week? Best meal this bite?
It was definitely from our vegetable garden. Our garden has been so abundant this summer. One reason is because we have chickens and we use their compost for the soil. But we also have a pond, and we were able to give it a lot of water in the middle of a drought. And the vegetables coming out of the garden, I'd say probably the grilling the summer squash is absolutely phenomenal. We've been canning a lot of tomatoes and making tomato sauce. So we love food. We had an epiphany about 10 years ago. We realized that our work and our play is all around food and really good, tasty food.
Well, food pulls people together.
Sure does.
I take it you do some of the cooking?
I do. I think that my role primarily is I love to grill. We grill a lot. So anything that can be grilled, I'm outside grilling right through the winter. And I'm the breakfast guy. So I also like to make breakfast.
Okay, so one of my questions is, what was your epic culinary fail?
Oh my gosh. Julia Child.
Okay. Her fail was you failed Julia Child's cooking or what?
I just remember seeing it when I was a kid and a young adult on TV and loved her love of food, loved her personality and the energy that she brought. And, you know, I don't know, it wasn't necessarily super fancy food. It was just really well prepared, really good quality food.
Terrific, terrific. Okay. If you could give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Grow up. It took me a while to grow up. So no, but you know, I've been really pleased to see the current younger generations that people are becoming adults embrace sustainability and the environment, and it's much more important to them than it was to our generations. I think part of that is because things have gotten a lot worse, and the wake up calls are much louder. But if I could speak to my 18-year-old self, it would be to pursue and support the people that are trying to make this a better world.
Great. And if you could wake up tomorrow morning with a new talent, what would it be?
Gosh, you know, if there's somebody out there that could get everybody to work more together, you know, to help people bridge this gap that is widening in this country. It's so discouraging. We all need to work together and find solutions. And so a talent to bring people together. I think those people are few and far between right now would be amazing.
Okay. And the final question, I know these are real toughies. What didn't I ask you that I should have?
Gosh, you know, this has been so much fun. I think we've covered so many bases. One doesn't come to the top of my head. I'm sorry. I feel like we've really had a great conversation around food and what's important.
Right, where is the camera? There we go. Just bringing that up. Henry, I'm so proud of myself. I kept wanting to call you Frank because the old actor Frank Lovejoy just sticking with me. And that probably nobody knows who Frank Lovejoy is. That really goes back.
Well, friends and family call me Hank, and that's pretty close. So we'll let it go.
Right. So hopefully I'm friends and family Hank. And I want to thank you so much. Remind people that to connect or find Freshé, anything to do with Henry and Lisa's seafood, go to the website Freshé Meals, and that's FRESHE meals.com. I want to thank you. This has been a joy. Thank you for my treats. I can't wait. I had to hold off until we did the show, and then I ate the Provençal because I had one of those to do with the show. So that's gone, but now we're going to dig in. everyone, a round of applause, yay, 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 for Hank Lovejoy or Henry Lovejoy. And I'm just going to end up with a couple of comments for my audience, and all the best and continued success.
Thank you for what you do, Dara. Appreciate it.
Well, next week's show will be Ariel Fox, an award-winning chef, cookbook author, and vice president of culinary for Landry Restaurants, McCormick and Schmidt, which is McCormick and Schmidt, Ocean Air, Morton's, Chart House, Palm, Del Frisco's. She's also the winner of the second Hell's Kitchen All-Stars. If you need to reach me, you can reach me at the email food@jmoreliving.com, or my Instagram is @DaraCooks. All shows are immediately archived in video form on JMore's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. Feel free to dig into the past shows, listen when you're taking a walk or run or drives. You don't have to watch me, just listen. They've been great interviews, just like today's with Henry. We truly appreciate when you share our show with friends and family. Be kind, smile, say hello to people. You know, I get somebody on customer service and they do a good job. I tell them that they did a good job. When everybody's so negative, be a little bit positive and say hello and smile, as Henry said, and as I've been saying for the past weeks. As always, I will see you next Thursday, and may your plates always remain full. Thank you for tuning in.